Yo guys, what is up? My name is Grizzly, welcome back to another League of Legends video. Today I'm gonna go over why I think the Bruiser Fizz is actually back after the recent buffs, and this is kind of a follow-up on the buffs that happened last patch, where they changed his W a lot, where instead of having to wait 1.5 seconds for the W to deal maximum damage, now instead, after you use your W, and if it doesn't kill the target, you basically deal on-hit damage after that W proc. So that in itself was a lot better for Bruiser Fizz, but the changes that they made this patch actually, I think, makes it really viable. So, what was changed? So, the thing that matters for Bruiser Fizz is mostly this buff right here, and what they did is they increased the base damage of the W active by 50 at max rank, but it's increased at rank 1 as well with 10, and then 20, 30, 40, 50, and this is like
tons of damage. Tons of damage.
Huge, like 50 base damage is a lot, and 50 base damage would push an already like decent champion to broken tier, but since Bruiser Fizz wasn't really played that much, this will kind of make him from kind of unplayable to, in my opinion, like playable slash almost meta. And they also increased his AP scalings a bit, and this can matter, especially in the early game, depending on your build order, and there are also some builds you can go which kind of like combine some AP items with the Bruiser items that exist, and for that this actually makes a difference as well. So I think overall this is super huge for Fizz. Another thing is that Conqueror was recently nerfed.
Maybe I would say, okay, fine, you can nerf Conqueror.
From giving 10 AD level 1 to giving 6 AD level 1, and so since Fizz doesn't use Conqueror, this is like really big for him. So as for the setup on Bruiser Fizz right now, I feel like there's a lot of alternatives, and that's partially actually what makes the champion good in my opinion, because Conqueror is and has always been a really like forced all-in rune. It really has no trading potential outside of like going into a really extended trade.
Conqueror is actually not a laning phase keystone, and is best used mid to late game, which for many champions can become very difficult to use.
And for the fact that Conqueror was recently nerfed as well, it's actually super good for Fizz that he has a lot of alternatives in the runes. So in this game, for example, I'm playing Grasp, and I would recommend this against like a Yasuo lane, because you can pretty much outtrade him in short trades over and over, and it also gives you much needed sustain. With Grasp, you go into the result tree obviously, and you take Bone Plating, Chrysalis, and Overgrowth. If you're against like a range champion, you take Second Wind there. And as for the secondary, it's actually Domination. Take Sudden Impact and Ravenous Hunter. Now, Sudden Impact is really good for Fizz, because it not only gives you Armor Pen, which now is called Lethality, but it also gives you Magic Pen, so it gives you both of the stats, and since you will be doing a lot of hybrid damage, this is actually super huge for Fizz. As for another page you can go on Fizz, it's actually still quite good to go press the attack, and you do this in matchups where you really want the extended trade still. Conquer could work as well, but overall I much prefer press the attack because it also has better burst potential. And what I do in the precision tree is I grab press the attack, then I go into Triumph, then I go into Legend Alacrity, and then I go into Coup de Grace or Last Stand, depending on what I'm feeling really. Those two runes are super close. As for the secondary, you can either go into Sorcery and you can take Celerity and Scorch, or you can go into Resolve and you can take Chrysalis and Bone Plating. Now this really depends on what your goal is. I would say that the Sorcery is a lot better early game, but the Resolve tree is safer early game and also scales better, so it's really up to you there. So those are basically the runes. So he has a lot of value because he can pretty much change up his page depending on the situation a lot. And if you get good at reading the pre-game, you can actually set up Fizz to be a really strong champion. As for the build on Fizz, there are like two main builds I think, and it really depends kind of on your build. So the first one, if you go like press the attack, I would mostly go Trinity Force, then into Titanic, and then Sterex is kinda iffy, but it works, especially if you're ahead. It's a super good item still, and then you fill out the rest of the slots with tank items such as like Thornmail, Randuin's, Spirit Visage, or Adaptive Helm most of the time. As for another build that I also think is super good, is if you go with the Grasp route instead, you can actually go Trinity Force, and then as your second item you go into Liandry's Torment. And it sounds a bit trolly, and it also looks kinda like an ultimate bravery build or something, but it actually works really well, because you have that super high burst potential with the extra like AP from Liandry's, and both are like early spike items, you know, and they both work really well with Fizz's kit. And then after those 2 items, where you will spike the hardest, you can actually then go into like a Thornmail, and Thornmail is like extremely good with this build if you're against a heavy AD team. So I think overall that build is actually the one that I've had the most success with recently. And then for the last items, you just fill it up with tank items. So you go like adaptive. You could also maybe go Wit's End with that build actually, but Wit's End is kind of an early game item, and you already have 2 early game items that you really want to rush, and those 2 are also quite expensive, so Wit's End could work, but it's quite iffy. So yeah, either like Adaptive Helm, or Randuin's, or Warmog's Armor, something like that. So if I would try to like convince you guys why AD Fizz works right now in top lane, I would just say basically look at his base stats and his values, because it's super insane right now, to be honest, if you just compare it to other champions that's being played right now. His passive is obviously great for top lane, it just reduces passively all auto attack damage you take. So overall the champion right now is actually in a really good state for building as a Bruiser. Another cute thing you can do is you can actually, because AP is a lot better than AD on Fizz, especially in the early stages, because you want to take those short trades, and the AD won't really work that well, especially if you're not going press the attack, then AD is kind of worthless early game. So a cute thing you can do is to make the adaptive forces from your runes go into AP instead of AD. After your corrupting potion, you can go into a Doran's ring and a dark seal. It's very important that you build both, or you can also build like 2 Doran's rings. That way, when you complete your Trinity Force, you will still have like the converted forces to AP instead of AD, because the dark seal and Doran's ring will give you more AP than Trinity Force gives AD, and that's super huge, and that spike is absolutely insane, especially if you go the grasp setup. That is actually a really good trick. And then when you go into Leandris, you will actually sit around at about like 170 AP, and you will have the Trinity Force and the extra durability and all the extra health, and you will just be insane at that point. I really recommend you guys to actually try it out. I think it's super strong. I think it's kind of hidden right now, but I also think that the standard like AP Fizz is extremely broken right now as well, especially for mid lane. So it might be kinda hard to get Fizz in games actually. He might be permabanned very soon. So if you guys want to abuse this, you should do it pretty quickly. Either as the Bruiser Fizz of course, but I also think the regular AP Fizz is just completely busted right now. But anyways guys, thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you found it enjoyable. I will be sure to post more in the future. I just kinda took a break from YouTube honestly, but now I'm back to make videos, and if you guys have any suggestions or videos you would like to see, feel free to leave that in the comments below. But other than that, thanks a lot for watching this video guys, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.